Have you ever been reading JoJo, seen the main characters fight some dude and thought, who the hell was that guy? And then completely forget about them later? Well, I'm here to tell you, you're not alone, and this is a very common occurrence. Throughout parts 1 through 6, which are the only parts I've read or watched since I like watching the anime before reading the manga, I've found that right before the main villain, the main characters always have to fight some absolute random who shows up out of nowhere and ends up being either the most non-threatening person ever or having one of the strongest powers of all time. And sometimes it's even both. And in this video, we're going to look at all of them and see the roles that they played. Okay, real quick. Do you know the names of these guys? No? Well, I didn't either. I had to look them up. They're Paige, Jones, Plant, and Barnum, vampires who look like eldritch horror monsters who interrupt Jonathan right as he's about to fight Dio, just to get killed by a chandelier. Such an important role, right, guys? Another really unimportant random before this is Doobie, but at least he actually, put up a fight and lasted, a full chapter. So, most people should know the primary enemies of Part 2, right? You got AC/DC, Wamu, and Cars, the Pillar Men, Santana, the guy who introduced the Pillar Men, and Strizo, who is meant to connect Parts 1 and 2. But Joseph fights all of these guys. So who the hell does Lisa fight? His name is Wired Beck. Not any strong or important guy, just a random vampire who likes pretending to be a door. I think they had to include this guy just to prove that Lisa was strong or something, but then she got her ass beat by Cars, so she still ended up looking really weak anyway. I still think that Joseph could have handled Wired Beck, because, we see him constantly handle vampires rather easily.
Go ahead, Mr. Juster.
You know, for a part that has a lot of strange fights and useless characters just because they needed to fill out a stand for every tarot card and Egyptian god, most of the enemies in Dio's mansion are actually pretty reasonable. The only guy who kind of randomly shows up is Vanilla Ice. Except, instead of being a pushover like the last two guys we mentioned, he's incredibly powerful. Vanilla Ice is mostly known for killing Avdol a second time and Iggy. I don't really know about anyone else, but I didn't care for Iggy, so I didn't mind his death. His stand, Cream, is incredibly powerful for no reason, and it's not even a tarot card. He can basically erase space or something, kind of like the Hand, except way more powerful because he has a lot more range. You want to know how they beat this guy? Plot armor. You remember how Iggy died? Well, actually, he wasn't dead yet, and just kind of saved Polnareff, which allowed him to stab Vanilla Ice, and then burn him in the sun. This was an overpowered stand.
If my nose is correct, one of you beauties is on your period. I'm right, aren't I? Who is it?
It's me.
Okay, so there's a point in part 4 where the main characters find out that Yoshikage Kira the goat is the serial killer they've been looking for, and almost capture him, but he evades them and turns into Kosaku Kawajiri, the other goat. And now they have to find this completely new guy, so what happens in the meantime? Kira's dad gives a bunch of nobody losers stands to fill up 40 chapters of boring ass fights. Let's look at all of them. First on our list of wonderful and very useful opponents is this kid, and his stand, Boy to Man. The stand functions in this way. If you lose to him in rock, paper, scissors, he gets a third of your power, which includes stands. If you win, you get all of it back. So beating him should be simple, right? Just ignore the kid. Well, the problem here is the guy who fights him is Rohan Kishibe, who is a stubborn idiot. This fight genuinely could have been over if Rohan just locked the kid in a basement or something. Next on our list is an alien! Or something. This isn't even a fight, it's more like one of those silly small town things that makes part 4 great because it feels so real. This is such a weird section because Josuke just gets some guy to turn into dice and then sets Rohan's house on fire. Okay, now these next two stands I think are actually decent in their own ways, and I don't have really any complaints about them. If this segment was just these two, maybe it'd be better. First up is Yuya and his stand Highway Star, which is a really good fight because this guy's hospitalized because of a bike accident. So he's using his stand, which can run up to 60 kilometers per hour, by the way, to absorb life energy from people. It's a great fight. The other one is Stray Cat, which is a stand that comes around when Kosaku's wife kills a cat because she's a bitch. So Kosaku himself, the goat, buries the cat, and it turns into a cat-plant hybrid that can manipulate air, which actually gets used in a really cool way at the final fight. Okay, to wrap up this portion, we have two more dumb stands, which I'll try to breeze through really quickly. First is Superfly, which is literally just a transmission tower that traps people inside of it until someone else comes in. So if Josuke just never entered the tower, there'd be no issue. And then we have Enigma, a stand that can put anything into sheets of paper, and the stand itself has like some really cool sound effects and is like kind of a decent fight, but it just feels so extra and stupid.
どっかで電話が鳴ってるぞ。信じられねえぜ。こんなところに偶然公衆電話があるなんて。ガチャリ。
Okay, picture this scenario. Giorno and the gang have just killed the entire Hitman team except Diavolo killed Risotto, but whatever. They're heading to the Coliseum to meet Polnareff, and Diavolo has no one else to send at them, so they're going to fight the big bad soon, right? Well, actually, Diavolo has two more guys, who he didn't send before because they were too mentally unstable? Like, the entire Hitman team is mentally unstable. What the? Anyway, these guys are Chocolata and Secco, and their stands are Green Day and Oasis. Green Day's ability is to make it so anyone who goes to a lower elevation than they currently are starts growing mold all over them, which causes their body to fall apart, whereas Oasis allows Secco to swim through objects like the ground. As you can imagine, this is a pretty powerful pairing. In order to beat them, Bucciarati uses zombie shenanigans to not be affected by Green Day, since he isn't a living creature, and Giorno has to use his big brain to land a 7-page Muda on Chocolata, who is apparently a genius surgeon who finds out the exact way to cut himself up so he can be a floating spine with arms and a head somehow. It's just two really random, overpowered stands that they fight right before Diavolo. I'd also like to real quick point out that Plot Armor Polnareff shields the entire Colosseum with plot armor so that while Green Day is causing multiple civilian casualties across Rome, he's just fine and unharmed.
1887年から1974年までの間に
Remember how Giorno's mom somehow escaped Dio and gave birth to Giorno? Imagine that happening 3 more times to super unimportant people, except they all have overpowered stands for no reason. I want to know how 4 whole pregnant women escaped from Dio's mansion and then decided to tell no one about the vampire that kidnapped and impregnated them. I guess Vanilla Ice was like asleep or something. These guys are literally all technically Giorno's stepbrothers. The JoJo family tree is a hellhole. Okay, so the first of these guys is Ungolo and his stand Bohemian Rhapsody, whose ability is to make fictional characters real and put people who enjoy the stories into roles of the characters from them. So you could be Prince Charming from Snow White, or the evil wolf from this goat fairy tale I never heard of before this. If this stand idea sounds dumb, it's because it is! You might be wondering, how does this affect Weather Report, a man with no memories of his childhood so he doesn't remember any stories he likes? Well, actually, he likes Van Gogh's self-portrait. But what story does a painting have? Clearly the story of Van Gogh's life. So Weather has to cut off his own ear and blow his brains out. How does Weather beat this? He gets Van Gogh to somehow create a character whose ability is to restore everything to normal, and then he comes to life and does just that.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
I will admit this stand is extremely strong, as it brought to life Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star, who fought Rao and apparently destroyed West Shinjuku. Next, we have Rikiel and his stand Sky High, which can control these creatures called rods. What are rods? They're literally made-up creatures. People saw them on these various images and thought they were a new species when it's really just a photo effect, and Araki decided to base a stand on them. They supposedly consume body heat, which Rikiel uses to affect Jolene and the others with illnesses and also blind her. So how does she beat him up? She senses him using his birthmark that he has because don't forget, he's Dio's son. It's another kind of powerful but super dumb stand. Our last guy is Donatello and his stand Underworld, which has the ability to recreate events that happen by digging them up because the ground remembers everything, I guess. He can dig up plane crashes, conversations, and even the 1974 Miami Dolphins football team. One thing I don't get, however, is how he can kind of pull up any memory from anywhere, no matter like what. These plane crashes probably didn't both occur at this hospital, so what is his range? If he's really mad at someone, can he just pull up the bombing of Hiroshima for an instant win? This is just such an insane stand to think about. Okay, thanks for watching me rant about JoJo for like 10 minutes. Bye.